And what's the story in KZN today?
Very good afternoon to you, Pete, and good afternoon to our viewers once again. Well, certainly a very busy morning here in KwaZulu-Natal, and more so for the IEC, as we were reported earlier on this morning that while there were challenges in certain areas, we can say now that the voting is underway in terms of the IEC officers will be visiting, officials rather, will be visiting over 70,000 voters who had applied for the special vote, and that is the home visit, and over 30,000 voters will be making their way, this is today and tomorrow, to the more than 4,000 voting stations here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, about 330 voting stations will not be open because in those areas there weren't any special votes. Now, speaking about a bit of the challenges this morning due to the public protests in a number of areas down in the south, in Ikopo here in eThekwini, I'm now joined by the acting provincial electoral officer, Mrs. Domfuti Masinga. Thank you very much. You look exhausted.
I am.
You look exhausted, but thank you so much for chatting with us. Obviously, quite a busy morning for you. Things have settled down now. Just quickly run us through. You had a few challenges with demonstrations in certain areas. What is the picture looking like now?
It's looking good now. We have stabilized throughout KZN. We had municipalities where we had challenges in the morning because of service delivery protests, but through the swift action by the SABC in the province, we were able to unblock all those blockages, and we managed to open all our voting stations. As we speak now, all our voting stations that were supposed to help to open are functional, except for the 332 that you mentioned, where we didn't receive any applications for special votes. So we are quite comfortable where we are right now, but we'll also monitor the situation as we close special votes at 5 p.m. because our teams still need to converge at the voting stations. Those that were working in voting stations and those that were conducting home visits, they need to do reconciliation on the voters' roll at the voting station, and then we're going to lock up those ballot boxes that were used today because they will only be counted on election day.
Because you experienced a few delays, Mrs. Masinga, this morning, the time is 5 p.m. That's the cutoff for the officials to visit and for people to go to the voting stations. What do you have one day tomorrow to make up, and we've got quite a high number, over 100,000 people who have applied. What is the situation like? Are we going to see any extension of time?
Definitely not. We have to wrap up our operations for special votes tomorrow at 5 p.m. and we appeal to the communities to assist us in getting those people to voting stations whom we will not be able to reach by 5 p.m. tomorrow night. We have over 70,000 home visits that we need to conduct in KwaZulu-Natal, and we've got over 30,000 that are visiting voting stations. But unfortunately, we cannot extend beyond 5 p.m. because of the time of the year as well. It gets dark quite quickly, and we cannot go beyond the legislated time.
You said you are been working with the South African police very closely. In one area, in fact, you were telling us that some of your officers were actually locked by protesters. Tell us now about the security now of the electoral officials accompanied by the party agents. What is it like on the ground? Are police with all the teams that are going out to the individual home states?
We don't have deployments in every part of the province, but we have members of the SAPS that are roving in all communities where we've got teams on the ground. Fortunately, we haven't had any incidents with any of our teams being disturbed in any way in the province, but SAPS is with us. Unfortunately, unlike election day where we have static deployments, where we have them permanently in voting stations throughout the day, they have prioritized areas in the province because the service delivery protests have been happening throughout the province in the build-up to this week. So we already have areas where that we had prioritized. In those areas, it's only there that you'll find static deployments, but police presence is there throughout the voting districts where we have special votes to administer.
And I know another challenge that, of course, we've just come from those floods that affected most of the province, eThekwini as well, and some on the south coast, preventing access in some areas. I know that the Department of Cooperative Governance have also issued a statement saying that they are working around the clock to try and open up those roads that were closed due to the damage. In terms of infrastructure as well, there was some damage to some halls that you would have been utilizing. Have you made any alternative arrangements insofar as that?
Absolutely. We had mainly roads that were affected during the flash floods and some bridges. We have a total of over 200 roads and bridges combined that were affected during the flash floods. But luckily, in terms of voting stations, we only have 6 voting stations that were affected in the province, and we have made alternative arrangements where we are either putting up a tent or we have identified another structure close enough to where the original voting station was. There is a disaster management coordinating committee in the province that we are part of as the Electoral Commission, where most of the work is being done by municipalities and the Department of Transport. If the municipality doesn't have sufficient resources that they need, they escalate to district levels and then ultimately to the province if they need assistance. We have confirmation by all municipalities, including eThekwini municipality, which is the most affected, that they will have rehabilitated all the damaged infrastructure by Tuesday, tomorrow. So we are monitoring that, and our teams are confirming that work is underway on all the roads and the bridges that were affected in the province.
Well, I suppose it's been a busy but a good dry run for yourselves as the IAC today.
Absolutely. We have had time to test our infrastructure as well, to also confirm that all is according to what we've been told by disaster management committees. So we're quite comfortable that by tomorrow evening we can tell you whether we're going to have a smooth election in the province or not.
All right, we'll be catching up with you, of course, throughout the rest of the day and tomorrow as well. Mrs. Masinga, thank you very much for your time. Tomfuti Masinga, the acting Provincial Electoral Officer here in KwaZulu-Natal. And of course, throughout the next couple of days, we will be speaking to her on numerous occasions as she continuously gives us updates on what is happening across the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, she has said that looking at the delays in certain areas this morning, but voting is underway. All the electoral officials are out visiting over 100,000 people, well, 70,000 people rather, and the other 30,000 will be making their way to the different voting stations. We're going to leave it here for now here at the Operations Center here in Durban. But also know, of course, that I do have my colleagues who are across the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We're keeping a close eye on what is happening on the ground there. So we know that we'll be linking up with them as well to find out what is happening in the different parts of their province. But Peter, I'm going to leave it here for now and take things back to you.